so the bubble doesn't flatten or collapse as Ben shapes it. Ben is a tall guy sitting at the center workbench. So these are the designs for our limited edition goblet. So he's making this part right here. The steel pipe is here. He's making a little pointy bottom. And now we're going to add the avolia, the little spindle-shaped part just below the bowl. Colors in glass come mostly from metals dissolved in the glass when it's first cooked up. Cobalt makes it blue, chromium makes it green, tin makes it white, manganese makes it purple. So now we're going to transfer the bowl from Ben's rod to Sarah's. Give it a little tap, off it comes. The glass at the very top here is always a little bit thick. So we're going to stretch some of it out and trim a little bit of it off. So Ben's got some tweezers, and he's grabbing the glass at the very top, stretching it out a little. And now he's going to take a pair of shears and trim a little bit of that thick part off. The glass is hot, you can cut it with a scissors. So now we're going to take the finished bowl off the metal rod and place it in the garage. Garage is that silver oven with the curved side. It operates about half the temperature of the furnaces. It's hot enough to keep the glass from breaking, but it's not so hot that it makes it soft. So whatever goes in there stays warm, retains its shape. When we're ready to use it, we'll pull it out, heat it up a little extra. So Ben's going over to the garage. He's going to pick up another one of those tubes. Sometimes when we're making a bunch of things the same color, we'll blow a long tube of colored glass, cut it up into small sections. We'll keep the sections warm in the garage, and we'll pull them out one by one and make the object. So that glass he's working with is the same color as you see here. It's just a little distorted by the heat. Guys. So we have sort of two things going on today. Over on the workbench on the left, we're making these. These are called twisty cups, and they are a classical Italian design. And on September 1st, we're going to have the Twisty Cup Pro-Am. We're going to have a competition, see who can make the best Twisty Cup. And we also, if you enter the competition, you get a cup to take home with you as well. So if you watch Nick in the gray shirt over on the left, he just stuffed the bubble into one of these. This is called an optic mold. And this doesn't give us the shape, but it gives us little ridges. When we stuff it in here, the ridges are straight up and down. And then we'll heat that up and twist it, and the ridges will spiral around the cup like you see here. On this bench, we're making these. It's a limited edition goblet that we're going to sell at our annual fundraising auction. On the bench on the far left, we're making twisty cups. The glass furnaces, the ones that have the big tank of molten glass in them, they're 2100 degrees. The round ones with the doors open, the glory holes, those are 2300 degrees. Sarah's bringing a little dab of molten glass to Ben. We wind on a little disc, and we're going to shape it into this part called the avolia. We're making this part right here. Now we're going to transfer our goblet bowl from the rod it was blown on to a second steel rod called the punty. This second steel rod will act as a handle to hold it from the bottom while we shape the top. Sarah is preparing the punty. Sarah's on the woman on the right of center, dark blue shirt. Stick the punty onto the bottom. When it's firmly attached, we'll snap the glass off the original pipe. Now Ben is going to widen the opening. He's going to use a tool called the jacks, big metal tongs. Can we put a picture of the jacks up on the big screen? So he grabs the jacks and he'll stick them inside the opening in the bowl and he'll press upward and that'll spread the glass out. His assistant holds a wooden paddle in front of the top of the goblet so it stays straight. The colors in glass come mostly from metals dissolved in the glass when it's first cooked up. Cobalt makes it blue, chromium makes it green, manganese makes it purple. So now the bowl is done. We're going to take it off the steel rod and place it in the garage. The garage is that silver oven with the curved side. That'll keep it warm until we're ready to assemble the goblet. Little tap off it comes. Sarah will place it in the garage. So if you watch Ben, tall guy there, he's coated the end of that steel pipe, the blowpipe, with a little bit of molten glass. And he's going to use that to pick up one of our pre-made glass tubes, and we're going to blow that up into another bowl for one of our goblets. So we made these tubes at another time. We've warmed them up in that oven, in the garage. And Ben will grab one, and then we'll blow it up to full size and shape. The big round ovens are 2,300 degrees. The ovens where we keep the big tanks of molten glass are 2,100. Each year, we design a limited edition glass to be sold at our annual fundraising auction. This is this year's design. This is what we're making today. And the fundraiser will be on September 29th. It's called the Red Hot Gala. It's a big fancy dinner with music and an art auction, and it's a fun event. So if you want to support the museum, buy a ticket, come join us. That's glass. We get our glass in the form of these little chunks. You get 50-pound bags of these. That's what's filling up the trough. And we're going to shovel it into the furnace and cook it overnight. So all the glass that's in our furnaces is clear, has no color. We buy colored glass separately in the form of these bars. We buy it like an artist buys paint, red, yellow, pink, or blue. When we want to make an orange bowl, we blow a bubble of clear glass from our furnace. We cut off a little chunk of orange, and then we melt a layer of orange glass over the clear bubble. We'll then dip that in more clear glass, So the object will look colored, but when you cut through it, it'll just be that one skinny layer of color. So right now, Ben is adding the leaves. We're making a goblet like you see here on the pedestal. And it has 2 leaves that decorate the stem. You just added leaf number 1. Yes. So Ben crimps it, and he grabs it and stretches it. We'll heat it up again and give it a nice little elegant twist. Attach it to the stem. Nope, none of it is. No, the glass that goes into bottles is a different kind of glass than the glass that we use. The glass that goes into bottles is formulated to harden very quickly so that a machine can make 1,000 bottles an hour. Our glass is formulated to harden slowly so it can be shaped by hand. Sand. Sand. It depends on the formula. It can be anywhere between 60 and 75% sand. There's thousands of different formulas for glass. If you're working in a big factory, you can make everything the same color. Then you melt a big tank of colored glass. But here, we're a bunch of artsy-fartsies, and we want to make a red thing, then a purple thing, then a blue thing. So we buy colored glass, and we apply colored glass to each object individually. Yeah, well, he uses the same kind of glass that we do. He buys the colored glass from the same companies that we do. And they have maybe 150 colors. Those are different colored pieces of glass melted together. So if you have little chips of glass and you melt them on, they become a little dot. You can heat up a colored piece of glass, a contrasting color, and wind it around. You get a little spiral. So when you melt two colored pieces of glass together, they stick to each other, but they don't mix. So if you think of like two pieces, like a piece of pink bubble gum and a piece of blue bubble gum, if you press them together, they stick, but the two colors don't mix. So we're getting ready to assemble our first goblet. This is going to happen very, very quickly. Ben will be sitting at the workbench with the stem and the foot. Sarah will come over and put the tiniest little dab of molten glass on top of the stem. And then Gabe, in the bright blue shirt, will come over with the bowl and stick the two together. So Ben sits down, Sarah comes over with a dab of molten glass, followed quickly by Gabe. Gabe sticks the bowl on. A little tap will release the metal rod, and the goblet is assembled. So Ben will check it out, make sure everything's on there straight, and then we'll put the goblet, the finished goblet, into our annealing oven where it'll be cooled slowly overnight. Put a little drop of water on the joint between the metal rod and the goblet itself. That'll crack that joint. Then just a light tap, and off it'll come. Into our annealing oven to cool slowly overnight. So let's have a hand for the Museum of Glass Hot Shop team: Ben Cobb, Gabe Feenan, Sarah Gilbert, Nick Davis, and Jeff. They designed these goblets here. Each year we have a fundraiser at the museum. Each year we make a limited edition goblet and a decanter. And so, and the team designs the goblet and the decanter. No, it's only sold at our fundraiser. This is a traditional design. These are called twisty cups. Yeah. We didn't. Oh no, I don't know what you mean. So Ben in the center, tall guy, is building another stem. And we're about to add the foot. The foot is this part here. We're going to add what's called a blown foot. It's a traditional Venetian style foot. Gabe in the bright blue shirt on the left is going to blow a bubble. We're going to drop it on top of the stem, and then I'll explain it a little further as we go, because it's a little complicated. Ben wasn't happy with the Avolio. We're going to make that again. Can we put up the goblet anatomy? We put up the goblet anatomy. So he's making the stem. And and underneath, and you see the little spindle-shaped part? That's called the Avolio. Right underneath the bowl. We'll put another Avolio on the base of the stem. Do you guys have any questions? Make horses? Okay. Can we play the pony video? So watch up on the big screen. That's how we make horses. Now you can go home and make your own. So in the center, Ben is adding the second leaf. Gabe, to the left, in the bright blue shirt, is blowing the bubble for the foot, the base of the goblet. All the colors that you see are distorted by the heat. So the bubble that Gabe has is this color right here. So here we go. This is called dropping a blown foot. We drip the bubble onto the stem. We cut it off in a big teardrop shape. We heat up that teardrop. We're going to cut that in half. Stretch it out a little, squeeze it in the middle. And then we're going to bust off the pointy part. So that leaves us with a little hollow sphere. We're going to spread that out, and that'll make the foot. So we widen that opening, we spread it out, and now we have our classic Venetian style foot. So next thing we're going to do is transfer the foot and the stem from the rod it's on now to a second steel rod called the punty. So right now it's attached up here. We're going to grab it from underneath. So Sarah has prepared a second steel rod called the punty. And we're going to use that to hold the stem and the foot from the bottom. Once that bond is firm, Ben will break it off the original pipe. getting ready to assemble another goblet. So Ben, the man in the center, will sit down at the workbench with the stem and the foot. Sarah will come over and dab a little bit of molten glass on top of the stem. We call this the glue bit, followed by Gabe with the bowl of the goblet. The light tap on the metal rod will release it. And now our goblet is assembled. So we're making another stem. So we're getting ready to add the foot to this goblet. Gabe is blowing a bubble. We like the bubble drip onto the stem. Cut it off in a big teardrop shape. We'll heat up that teardrop. We'll cut it in half, and that'll leave us with a little hollow sphere, and we'll use that to make the foot. We're going to stretch it out a little, squeeze it in the middle. We're going to bust off the pointy part. And that leaves us with a little hollow sphere. We'll spread that out, and that'll become the foot. That's called a blown foot. It's very typical of Venetian style glass. There's a little tiny hole in the bottom. He sticks that tool in there, that's called the jack, and he presses up and spreads it out. And now you have yourself a foot. We're getting ready to assemble another goblet. Earlier this morning, we made the bowls. They're sitting in this oven over here called the garage, staying warm. Ben has just completed the foot and the stem, foot. And now we're going to stick the bowl on top. Ben will sit down at the workbench. Sarah, on the right, will bring a little dab of molten glass, put it on top of the stem, and then Gabe will come with the bowl and stick the two together. We just dab on the tiniest bit of hot glass, followed by the bowl. A little tap on the iron rod will release it. And now we've assembled our glass. Heat that up once or twice more, make sure everything's straight, and then we'll place it in our annealing oven where it will be cooled slowly overnight. So in the center, we're making another goblet bowl. When we make these fancy goblets, we make them in parts. We make the bowls first. We put the bowls into that silver oven, the garage, keep them warm. Then we'll build the stem and the foot, and then we'll stick the bowl on top. Generally make several bowls in a row, and then we start assembling. Do you guys have any questions? Sir? Okay, now we're going to add a little spindle shape to the base of the bowl. The spindle shape is called the avolio, A-V-O-L-I-O. Sarah, on the right, is going to bring Ben a little dab of molten glass. Now she's going to bring him a second one. We'll wind that one on too. And we'll squeeze it in the middle and make the little spindle shape like you see underneath the bowl. So now we're going to transfer the bowl from the rod it was originally blown on to a second steel rod called the punty. Sarah, standing up, has the punty. You stick it to the bottom. And we'll snap the glass off the original punty. Does anybody have any questions? Come on and sit down. Make yourselves comfortable. You can still sit down, even though you're from Texas. Okay. So we're stretching out the glass at the very top, and we're going to trim some of it off. When glass is hot, you can cut it with a scissors. Can we play the Zamfirico movie? Take So we make a big cylinder of clear glass. We heat up some rods of white glass or whatever color we want. And we stick them on, and they melt. Those will melt in and become stripes. So now we have a thick piece of clear glass with stripes melted onto the side. We'll make another disc of glass called a post. And we're going to use this second disc of glass as a handle to stretch and twist our thick striped cylinder. Then we start to twist it and pull it. So we'll make a long rod, maybe 30, 40 feet long, and we'll cut it up into small pieces that we use to decorate other pieces of glass. So for those of you who came in a little later, we have two projects going on. In the center, we're making these drinking glasses. These are a limited edition drinking glass that we're going to sell at our annual fundraising auction. Each year, we do a different design. We make a limited edition. Next year, we'll make a different kind of glass. So that'll be happening in the center workbench. On the far left workbench, we'll be making these. These are called Twisty Cups. It's a classic Italian design. And we're getting ready for our annual Twisty Cup Pro-Am. That's going to be September 1st. A competition to see who makes the best Twisty Cup. So we're getting ready to assemble the goblet. So Ben is blowing the bowl of the goblet, this part here. So the pipe is here, we're on the top. He's making the kind of pointy martini shape. Hi. Do you guys have any questions? So over here, Gabe is blowing the glass into a mold like this. This is called an optic mold. And it's going to give the glass a rib texture. So the ribs will go kind of straight up and down. And then he's going to grab it. And as his assistant blows, he's going to twist it. That's going to make the ribs spiral around. So that's what it looks like when you twist the rib. So that's called the Twisty Cup. And at the end of the month, on September 1st, we're going to have a big Twisty Cup contest here at the museum. It's kind of a half party, half contest. Does anybody have any questions? He's making one of these. So right now he's making the bowl, and he's shaping this little part here called the avolio. A-V-O-L-I-O. You have to speak louder, I can't hear you. Oh, after we're finished, we cool it slowly overnight. Overnight, yeah. Well, for things that are thin, we just do it overnight. If things get really thick, then we do it for longer periods of time. They're making these glasses, these fancy wine glasses. You guys have any questions? Yeah. Yes, it's a half the temperature of the furnaces. It's hot enough to keep the glass from breaking, but it's not hot enough to make it soft. Till they're ready to use it. So they'll put a bunch of bowls in there, keep them warm. Then they'll make a stem and a foot, and they'll pull the bowls out one at a time and stick them on top. So, yeah, it's just to keep something warm while we're working. When it's done, it goes in there, and that will cool it down overnight. So this is for keeping things warm while we're working, and that's for when we're done to cool them down. So that's called the annealer, and this is the garage. Think of it, this is where we park stuff until we're ready to use it. We park it in the garage. Ma'am. The coloring glass comes mostly from metals dissolved in the glass when it's first cooked up. Cobalt makes it blue, chromium makes it green, a little bit of gold makes it pink. There's little crushed up colored glass. So now, Ben in the center is making the stem of the glass. This part right here. The next thing we're going to do is add the leaves. Sarah's getting some glass out of our furnace. Oh no, we're going to do one more thing first. We're going to add a little avolio, a little spindle part at the base. So over here on the left, we're making these. They're called twisty cups. It's a classic Italian design. Nick, man in the gray shirt, he's going to blow a small bubble of clear glass, and at his feet are what's called an optic mold. I'm going to press the bubble in the optic mold. Here he goes. Oh no, he's going for the, I think he's going for the pineapple mold. Different kind of mold. Oh, it's another optic mold. Yep. So it looks like lunch. We'll be back in an hour. So if anybody has any questions before I go to lunch? See you in an hour.
It's a well-oiled show business machine, ladies and gentlemen. My work it kind of sits at the intersection of technology, entertainment, and art. The projects take a lot of different formats. It could be performative. I had a big project that was a game show for many years. I got interested in 3D printing because it was kind of this marriage of digital and physical, which is like where we all live nowadays, right? And the latest work that I'm doing here at Museum of Glass is about light.
Here we go.
A lot of the work that I do is about being approachable and reaching an audience that may not otherwise go to art events. That's what brought me to Coney Island and performing. I got really interested in 3D printing and 3D scanning. Like, we live our whole lives now in computers, but then we're physical beings, right? So 3D printing appealed to me because it was a way of translating that digital life into physical, and 3D printing brought me to 3D carving. Instead of an additive process of building up a model with a 3D printer, I'll start with a block of graphite and use a CNC router to remove some track material and create these molds for glass castings. And that led to the forms that I'm doing now. So a lot of the forms are based on sacred geometries or just, mathematical geometries. So a lot of the cone molds that I'm using here today, they're based on a truncated icosahedron form. It's a 5 and a 6-sided cone. They fit together like a soccer ball. I like physical work because it has permanence, particularly glass. Plastic, less so. A lot of the work is about play, so it's like we're making these things, and then there's gonna be the next phase of the project is about shining light through the work, and we'll see where it all goes. Glass is this amazing sort of magical thing, the way it moves when it's molten, and I've really liked this graphite process because it's so fast and immediate to just pour the glass and pop it out of the mold, and multiples has been a big theme in my work over the years, and that kind of speaks to me a little bit as well. When I reflect on why do I use glass, I found that there's a lot of people out there making things out of glass because they can and not because they should. And for me, I didn't have something that I wanted to make that needed to be glass. This project needs to be made out of glass. The whole idea of this work that is about light is really sort of a response to what's going on in America right now, a response to what's going on in the world. This work is really about sort of turning off. The whole world has got to this point where we're so constantly stimulated by our phones and the news cycle and everything. And it's a lot about getting people to like slow down and stop and just experience.
Yes. Yes, he was a shiny old man. I'm John Toriano. I'm from New York City. I have this theory about the attraction of glass, and I think we're genetically hardwired to respond positively to sparkly and shiny things. These are all the teardrops that are the raindrops of the glass gods. It's part of my, just kidding, agricultural aesthetic theory. When you reach in to take a gather, it's like you're reaching into the center of the earth, right? And you're doing something with it. You're making a shiny object. If you imagine a time when, we were just primitive peoples, and you would see a sparkly thing, it wouldn't be very often. And it would be magical because, why? Because you could hold a piece of the sun in your hand. And the sun is everything, right? No sun, no life. I've always thought of myself as a painter first and foremost. With painting, you have to be able to communicate with one shape, something that's three-dimensional. I don't think any artist, for example, can make art without being involved with glass in some way. Maybe it's just with slides of their work, but it's about looking, and it's about seeing. And glass is a very important tool for that. For me, I've never really been a glass artist, but I've always had glass in my art ever since about 1969, I would say, when I was using dots to create the illusion of space, kind of like sky, though I didn't think of it as sky at first. Then I started to look at photographs of the sky in order to get more interesting configurations and distributions of dots. And then because I was looking at those, I started reading about it, and I started making relationships between astronomical ideas of space and painterly ideas of space. And I found that the astronomical ideas gave me more license than the kind of formalist Greenbergian ideas about space did. The project that we're working on here at the museum, I started it a couple of weeks ago at Pilchuck, where I wanted to see what I could do in a columnar shape. Ever since about 1974, on and off, I've been making these column paintings that are half-round lozenge shapes of different sizes. What I tried to do with those is create a paradox between the physicality of them coming out from the wall and the illusionness of them, both physically and visually. And I wanted to see if those ideas could translate to glass. And in a way, I'm trying to make them as close to a painting as you can.
Yeah, and you had a recipe kind of written out.
Yeah. I'm used to working on my own all the time, and it takes a lot more energy to get the momentum going on your own than it does when you have a crew and a group of people. And so one of the pleasures I take from working in a place like the museum here is the kind of communal energy that helps support the process of making work. You don't question it so much. You just go in, you get up, you have your coffee, and you start making work. And that's refreshing. You see what I mean by them being figurative or beings of some kind? Like post-apocalyptic, but with really nice outfits.
Oh, I was studying painting. My painting prof said, well, okay, your schedule looks good here. You've got some 3D classes, but you're 2 credits short. And if you don't have a full load, they won't give you an assistantship. I said, well, that won't do. What should I take? And he ran his finger down the list, and he came to one that said 2 credits, and he said, here, take that. And I said, what is it? And he said, it doesn't matter. It's 2 credits. And it was the second glass blowing class in America. Experimental class. This is a series of glasses that I've been doing for the last 5 years that we call cameo cut glass. So we came here a year and 3 months ago and blew cups, or blanks I call them, that have colors on the outside and clear on the inside. And then I took them to the engraving machine. I carved through each color down to the color that's below it and make a pattern. These are not finished at this stage. Then I bring them here. We're going to put glass inside the bubble and pick it up and reheat it and blow it out. But this color that's on the outside of this bubble will also be on the outside of the final piece. You can make any shape you want after you've got it all attached. And here are some. This is a cup and a finished piece.
A slight tap, the piece is broken free and on its way to the annealer, where it will cool down for the next several hours.
If I could have my biggest dream come true, it would be that people see me as an artist as well as an educator, so that I can have my cake and eat it too. Good, huh?
Charging the furnace is what we call filling the furnace up with glass. Glass cullet is washed clean and loaded into tubes for filling. Here at the museum, we don't use recycled bottles. Instead, we melt cullet that has been specifically designed to make blown glass art. The primary ingredient in glass is silica sand, or silicon dioxide. The other 2 main ingredients are soda, or sodium oxide, which lowers the melting temperature, and lime, or calcium oxide, to stabilize it. Once the cullet is loaded into the 2300 degree furnace, a rake is used to level the glass for even melting. The furnaces at the Museum of Glass hold approximately 1,000 pounds of clear molten glass and run continuously 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
baby monster. Pip is a baby monster that loves to smile and laugh. Even though he's little and cute, he gives a big cry. Also, Pip loves food, especially bananas. He will eat any speck of food in sight.
Oh, it's amazing. Totally amazing. And especially if the pieces of art go traveling around, other kids will see, oh my gosh, I could do that too. You know, it's not just somebody else that, you know, they did it, you know, I couldn't do that. Absolutely not. Anyone can do this. And I think that's what it shows the kids.
Maybe not everybody can win,
But, and
I think it's gonna stand up there with one of the coolest things that a museum has ever done.
What is it, a cucumber all dressed up for a night on the town? That's pretty ridiculously funny.
The funnest part about this project is how fresh the ideas are coming from the kids who they have no idea of glass blowing techniques. They don't care.
Nobody saw this coming. We'd make one piece and it was given to the family. And then we realized, well, wait a second, there's something more here. We started to get more drawings, more interesting drawings, and it really kind of snowballed a little bit.
Bacon Boy was special. The hat almost looks like a frying pan.
Maybe he's wearing a frying pan.
I don't really do any work when they present this bacon.
bacon, baby.
It's mine.
Oh, I see.
How's that for his arm? Fingers?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it really brings it home and really shows that, you know, there's an artist in all of us, I think. So, and it's human nature to be creative. So I think we lose that as we get older sometimes, and it's cool to see this pure creative nature that children possess. So I think it's cool to share that with the rest of the world, hopefully. So.
Thank you for supporting Kids Design Glass.
To fabricate a scale model float plane out of glass takes tremendous effort. Figuring out the exact proportions of the propeller, the length of the body versus the wingspan were all extremely difficult. The Legacy project started off as a collaboration between the Museum of Glass and the Murdoch Charitable Trust. We were commissioned to design and fabricate a glass airplane to commemorate Jack Murdoch. We started by overlaying two contrasting colors of glass that would later show the design elements in the plane. We're working with the glass at a temperature of over 1,500 degrees. We create a small color cup to allow for a nice even distribution of color. The colored cup was then stuffed with clear glass to give us enough mass to make the body or the fuselage of the plane. Glassblowing is a team effort. Here at the Museum of Glass, we're unique in that this team has been working together for over 10 years. Each member of our team played a specific role in the creation of the plane. We use a variety of tools to shape and design the body. As you can see here, we're using some cork paddles to rough it out. The body is then transferred to yet another blowpipe so we can finish up the tail of the fuselage. Using those same cork paddles, we give the bottom of the plane a gentle curve before it's put away. After the plane is finished being formed, it's put away into an annealing oven to cool for several days. Once the fuselage was made, we moved on to making the pontoons. We decided we needed to fabricate a steel mold to allow us to make multiples. In order to have the pontoons match the plane, we used the same white color bar. This time, it is solid. The solid glass is then heated up to approximately 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it's pressed into a steel mold. The pontoons are then put into another annealing oven to cool down. In our cold shop, the fuselage of the plane is now being ground or sanded down to remove any unwanted material. We then taped off the plane, and using our sandblaster, we revealed the tail numbers, the windows, and the pinstripes on the fuselage of the plane. The sandblasting process is often very rewarding as the color is quickly revealed, bringing life to the aircraft. After being sandblasted, the planes were then returned to the cold shop to be cleaned up and polished. The wings, the vertical and the horizontal stabilizers were all water jet cut out of handmade sheet glass, again made from the same white color to match the body of the plane. Once the glass parts were finished, we fabricated a small steel structure to hold the pontoons to the body of the plane. The nose cone was turned on a lathe while the propeller was carved out of a sheet of steel to make a fully functional propeller. Now that we have all the parts of our plane, it was brought back to the cold shop where the assembly began. The vertical and horizontal stabilizers were notched out to fit the tail of the plane, while the wing was glued into place. The gluing process takes many hours. We start with 2 clean surfaces, apply the glue, and it sits for over 72 hours before a full cure. It was an honor and a challenge to work on the legacy project for the Murdoch Charitable Trust.
Optic molds are used by glassblowers to create textures and patterns in blown glass. Nowadays, most optic molds are made from aluminum, but in the good old days, they were often made from cast bronze. They come in different shapes and sizes, depending on their desired effect. To begin, a bubble is formed and is shaped into the rough contour of the inside of the optic mold. The bubble is then heated, inserted into the mold, and blown with force. The resulting bubble can then be shaped into whatever form the artist desires. Today we're going to make an optic twist cup. So the bubble is held at the end while the pipe is rolled on the bench. This creates a spiraling pattern in the glass. The cup is blown to form, puntied up on the bottom, trimmed, and then opened up. Powder is the smallest size of colored glass available and can be very versatile when used in the creation of artwork. Powder is made by crushing frit in a ball mill. When used like frit, the powder is rolled through, and the heat of the gather is enough to melt the color onto the surface. Powder can also be sifted onto the outside of a bubble or gather to create various densities of pigmentation and shading. The application of different color powders can create both abstract designs and naturalistic color patterns, such as the skin of animals. Powder can be melted smooth or left dry and cakey on the surface of the piece.
Most people see Hilltop as a program. I see it more as like a family. I'm Maishan Cabrera. I'm originally from California, but I'm here in Tacoma now. Well, at first, I was a little stoked that we moved, but then reality kind of hit me, and I kind of thought, I can't see my family anymore, and it was kind of depressing at first. In California, art to us was just basically drawings and paintings and stuff. We didn't see any sculpting or anything like that, and especially out of glass, I've never heard of that. When I saw it, I was like, I'm getting in this program as soon as possible. They said I could sign up, and I started the next day.
Hilltop Artists is a nonprofit organization founded in 1994 with the help of Dale Trehuli. It started off in a small wood shop and now provides hot glass instruction to over 550 kids annually. I'm Trenton Kiocho, and I'm from Tacoma, Washington, born and raised. I was kind of getting in trouble with my mom, so she had me move in back with my dad in Tacoma. And first day of school, we were signing up for classes, and I noticed they had a glass program, and I was kind of curious about it. And I signed up for that class, and I've just been doing it ever since that day. Right now with the program, I'm actually a part-time instructor with the production team. So our hope with the Hilltop Artist program is that the kid leaves with a little bit more self-esteem, a little more confidence to pursue their goals, whether it be glass blowing or anything else that they'd want to pursue. Our mentors at Hilltop focus on increasing student academic success and interpersonal success. We all have our own issues outside of work, but I think for those 3 hours, we get to come together and be a part of a team and be a part of something else. So our focus this week at MOG is to produce a body of work for our upcoming luncheon fundraiser that will happen October 7th. And all this money that we're going to raise from this luncheon is going to go back into the program to help fund the cost.
There's 3 of us on the floor, 3 people from the MOG Hot Shop team, and we're using the kids to help us make their auction pieces.
Just in these 2 days, I've learned so much. Just they help you. If they see something they can help you with, they're like, oh, do this. I'm rolling up cane. and they told me, hey, roll up cane towards you, hotter, keep it, you know, simple stuff that like, I probably like thought about it in my head, but I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should do this, might be doing it wrong. But then they're like, do this, and it becomes easier. There is no limit to your imagination. You can do anything. Glass is just an example of it. There's always new techniques. People always say, oh, there's nothing new. There's always something new. Glass, like, I can work with somebody one day, I can learn a new technique.
You know, I wish there was something like that when I was growing up. Like, I could have really used this, and now for me to be, you know, on the side where I'm actually helping these kids, you know, it's really rewarding, and I've never felt like I was a role model, and I definitely feel like I am now. So I'm trying to take that and own it, I guess.
When I see the pieces in the museum, it kind of like makes me want to like be that person. Like, I want someone to like see something of mine and be shocked and surprised in how it's like so like detailed and colorful and big.
Oh, sorry. Up until the residency, most of my work has been focused on kind of the Venetian techniques of decorating with cane. A lot of vessel work, not so much sculpture. But for this residency, I kind of took a bit of a departure. I'm not going to be pulling any cane or doing any of that kind of decoration. Kind of focused more on these objects, the clouds, mountains, suns, and moons. I started making clouds a few years ago, kind of as I take a break from picking up cane and from making larger scale pieces, and it was something small I could make relatively quickly and on my own. And so I just kind of made them for myself. It was just a fun thing for me to make. And then I made a piece out of it, ended up getting this residency because of the piece, so I figured it was probably a good sign that I should stick with it and kind of use the residency to expand on some of the ideas and give the clouds an environment to exist in. You know, I have almost gotten in car accidents because I was checking out cool clouds on my drive home from work. I walk the dog at night a lot, so I'm always kind of keeping my eye out for when the moon breaks out of the clouds, and or when it's, you know, a big super moon, blood moon, all that stuff.
Let's build a happy little cloud. Let's build some happy little...
You know, glass blowing is a battle between what you want to make and what you actually make. And over the years, I've tried to use that as a dialogue between myself and the material. And a lot of times when I'm trying to make something, the glass doesn't want to do it. And sometimes that's where the beauty comes in, is this interaction of like, well, that's not what I intended, but a happy accident, I guess you would call it.
We don't make mistakes. We just have happy accidents. You can do anything that you want.
It's funny because a lot of glass people make clouds. Oh, this is a tricky one. And I was a little hesitant to jump into it, but I figured I could make it my own, do my own rendition of it. And yeah, everyone seems to be pretty happy. It's hard to be angry at a cloud, I think. I'm working with all my friends. I'm super lucky. I'm friends with some of the best glass blowers and sculptors out there. And I help them make a lot of their work, and they help me. And so it was a really great opportunity to just fill the shop with super talented people that are also my great friends.
I believe every day's a good day when you paint. I believe it'll bring a lot of good thoughts to your heart.
Oh, I was studying painting. My painting prof said, well, okay, your schedule looks good here. You've got some 3D classes, but you're 2 credits short, and if you don't have a full load, they won't give you an assistantship. I said, well, that won't do. What should I take? And he ran his finger down the list, and he came to one that said 2 credits, and he said, here, take that. And I said, what is it? And he said, it doesn't matter. It's 2 credits. And it was the second glass-blowing class in America. Experimental class.
This is a series of glasses that I've been doing for the last 5 years that we call cameo cut glass. So we came here a year and 3 months ago and blew cups, or blanks I call them, that have colors on the outside and clear on the inside. And then I took them to the engraving machine. I carved through each color down to the color that's below it and make a pattern. These are not finished at this stage. Then I bring them here. We're going to put glass inside the bubble and pick it up and reheat it and blow it out. But this color that's on the outside of this bubble will also be on the outside of the final piece. You can make any shape you want after you've got it all attached. And here are some. This is a cup and a finished piece.
A slight tap, the piece is broken free and on its way to the annealer where it will cool down for the next several hours.
If I could have my biggest dream come true, it would be that people see me as an artist as well as an educator, so that I can have my cake and eat it too. It's good, huh?
The end idea would be to make a large cube about 5 feet by 5 feet, all made out of stacking glasses. But that would be about 5,400 cups. All in clear, except for kind of an amorphous shape inside that's made out of gray tones. And as those gray tones get stacked up against each other, it'll be harder for the light to permeate through, and eventually you'll get sort of just like this dark shadow mass hovering in the center of this cube. Basically, if we zoom in, it's all stacks of glasses. And then where the gray is, these are all the same gray tone, just stacked up against each other, and that's what's making that dense center. That's been fun. I think I'm assuming that the team was hoping to do more larger stuff when I came here. But I think it's been a lot of fun and interesting, just kind of turning everyone loose into more factory setting. Sarah's just cranking out starts, and Ben and I are just filling these molds, and then today Gabe's just been hot popping. So we've got Sarah gathering up start. She'll make just about a ping pong ball, golf ball sized bubble with a jackline in it. We'll let that cool down, and once that's chilled out, we'll take a post dip on it, and then with that good gooey runny glass, we'll extend the bubble, drop into an aluminum mold. The aluminum mold's been lined with linseed oil and cork, and we'll blow up the bubble, drop it down, spin out a crispy cup. Those get hot popped. So we have a file set up, and you make a little score about 1/4 inch on the side of the glass where you want it to break, and then we run a hot torch with a little razor sharp flame on it. We spin that on a Lazy Susan. As it's going around, that flame is hitting it. Wherever that little score line is, it'll make a crack, pop all the way around. You can take the top off and chuck that back in the furnace eventually. Cheers, fellas. Cheers. Cheers.
I'm Nancy Callan from Seattle, Washington. Glass is so mysterious and so fluid and it just sucks you in. Wanting to just do the best you can do and make the coolest things you can make is probably the biggest driving force for me. It's really hard work, but it's so much fun. And you're surrounded by people that you love and people that just want you to succeed. It's been a really great year for me in the way of doing different residencies, also teaching, and just meeting a lot of really great people, and end up feeling the freedom of just being on my own too, and just making my own work. It's really great.
Ready?
I started making wall panels. It's an old technique of where you blow a cylinder, you cut it open, and you slump it open.
And then we do a slice down the middle. Put it in the kiln, standing up. When it's up to temperature, we lay it down and kind of coax this open.
And really what I'm thinking about is patterns. And so far, I've just kept it to black and white. And I have a graphic design background, and this is really kicking into my graphics design, side of me. And started keeping a sketchbook, and then I just started thinking about, well, why not put the designs on, flat panels, see them flat, and it would be like pages in my sketchbook, and it would be like a documentation of all these patterns. So that's kind of where the idea started developing. Also, it's kind of a nice way to just experiment with the patterns and designs and not have to think about the form. It's very freeing to be able to just put it down and make a cylinder. So I've been really excited about them, and I feel like I'm just starting.
I was a blue-collar kid, so growing up, going to all the train car diners and things like that. And I live about 80 feet from Route 66 now, so there's a lot of traffic coming through. There's a lot of diners and memorabilia and all that stuff, and I'm really trying to kind of grab onto that and maybe romanticize it and celebrate it a little bit.
I think that was beautiful. Hold and lift right there.
The first work that I did for the Blue Plate Special series, which is the diner series, were these mold-blown crinkle-cut French fries, which we did here back the first year that they opened. But that was the first sketch on the napkin at the diner that I did, and had been doing it for about a year. And from then it went to 80-pound bacon cheeseburgers, big ketchup plastic squeeze bottles, Coney Island hot dogs, Chicago dogs, glasses of Coke, and things like that. I guess when you see the work, it immediately kind of makes you relax and get excited and loosen up a little bit. It's easily accessible, and like I said, it's kind of just really celebrating the American spirit and kind of everything that we experience every day that maybe some people from other countries don't. They maybe read about or see on TV, and then they get here and just can't believe it,
You know what it is? Come on, told you.
Everything that you do, I believe, is a piece of artwork is a self-portrait. It reflects who you are, reflects your personality, kind of everything about you. So this work is really loose and fun, and people can really enjoy it for that aspect. Museum of Glass in Tacoma, it kind of fires me up for a couple of months. I could really take this high back home and then spread it around to my students and friends. This is my favorite place to work, period, in the country, and I've been in at least 50 or 60 shops. Because it's about the people, it's about how we interact with each other, and yeah, mostly that. Oh, this is on the ground outside. I just picked it up because, you know, you guys like to keep this place clean, right? Yeah. Come check it out.
I'm no longer interested in making work for galleries. I'm no longer interested in making work for museums. I'm trying to create a different format for me to work in. This is what I'm excited about. In 1980, when I was 6 years old, my family moved from England to the Chicago suburbs, and we moved into a house designed by Bruce Goff, which is called the Ford House. I describe it as living in a sculpture. It leaks, it's freezing cold in the winter, it's blazing hot in the summer. A lot of the things that you expect a house to do, it doesn't do, but it does a lot of great things that most houses will never do. I became an artist because of that house, and it sounds like an overstatement to say that, but I really believe that's true. I made a body of work that was how that house, how the Ford House, shaped me to be an artist. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do next? And I decided I want to see if I can use that same format of asking someone to come live in something that I've made and see what I can do with that experience, see how I can use that opportunity to give them an art experience like the one that I had from the Ford House. And I can't invite someone to come live in my sculpture for 8 years, but I can invite them to come for one night. And I think there's so many cool opportunities that sets up. Getting people to have a different experience with art. This glass crew here is amazing, and what I'm here to make during my residency is functional objects, vessels, plates, bowls, like practical things like sink, tile, but having them be made by an artist, having them be made with my aesthetic is really the goal.
They're saying I've set them up for a big challenge.
If I make it right, I should get a free night's stay.
Some of the forms that we're making down there are these real kind of internal, sort of intestinal, cave-like forms that are based on some work, a body of work that I made maybe 5 years ago. And then I was making work about caves, and caves are formed by water flowing through them. And so there were these interesting connections between underground spaces and the interiors of our bodies. And so when I had the opportunity to make vessels for this project that I'm doing, that was just kind of the first thing. I wanted to pick that thread back up. I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to have this many people making something that I'm interested in. Feels like I'm royalty.
It's a well-oiled show business machine, ladies and gentlemen. My work it kind of sits at the intersection of technology, entertainment, and art. The projects take a lot of different formats. It could be performative. I had a big project that was a game show for many years. I got interested in 3D printing because it was kind of this marriage of digital and physical, which is like where we all live nowadays, right? And the latest work that I'm doing here at Museum of Glass is about light. A lot of the work that I do is about being approachable and reaching an audience that may not otherwise go to art events. That's what brought me to Coney Island and performing. I got really interested in 3D printing and 3D scanning. Like, we live our whole lives now in computers, but then we're physical beings, right? So 3D printing appealed to me because it was a way of translating that digital life into physical. And 3D printing brought me to 3D carving. Instead of an additive process of building up a model with a 3D printer, I'll start with a block of graphite and use a CNC router to remove some tracked material and create these molds for glass castings. And that led to the forms that I'm doing now. So a lot of the forms are based on sacred geometries or just, mathematical geometries. So a lot of the cone molds that I'm using here today, they're based on a truncated icosahedron form. It's a 5 and a 6-sided cone. They fit together like a soccer ball. I like physical work because it has permanence, particularly glass. Plastic, less so. A lot of the work is about play, so it's like we're making these things, and then there's gonna be the next phase of the project is about shining light through the work, and we'll see where it all goes. Glass is this amazing sort of magical thing, the way it moves when it's molten, and I've really liked this graphite process because it's so fast and immediate to just pour the glass and pop it out of the mold, and multiples has been a big theme in my work over the years, and that kind of speaks to me a little bit as well. When I reflect on why do I use glass, I found that there's a lot of people out there making things out of glass because they can and not because they should. And for me, I didn't have something that I wanted to make that needed to be glass. This project needs to be made out of glass. The whole idea of this work that is about light is really sort of a response to what's going on in America right now, a response to what's going on in the world. This work is really about sort of turning off. The whole world has got to this point where we're so constantly stimulated by our phones and the news cycle and everything, and it's a lot about getting people to slow down and stop and just experience.
Yes, he was a shiny old man. I'm John Toriano. I'm from New York City. I have this theory about the attraction of glass, and I think we're genetically hardwired to respond positively to sparkly and shiny things.
These are all the teardrops that are the raindrops of the glass gods.
It's part of my, just kidding, agricultural aesthetic theory.
When you reach in to take a gather, it's like you're reaching into the center of the earth, right? And you're doing something with it. You're making a shiny object.
If you imagine a time when, we were just primitive peoples, and you would see a sparkly thing, it wouldn't be very often. And it would be magical because, why? Because you could hold a piece of the sun in your hand. And the sun is everything, right? No sun, no life. I've always thought of myself as a painter first and foremost. With painting, you have to be able to communicate with one shape, something that's three-dimensional. I don't think any artist, for example, can make art without being involved with glass in some way. Maybe it's just with slides of their work, but it's about looking, and it's about seeing. And glass is a very important tool for that. For me, I've never really been a glass artist, but I've always had glass in my art ever since about 1969, I would say, when I was using dots to create the illusion of space, kind of like sky, though I didn't think of it as sky at first. Then I started to look at photographs of the sky in order to get more interesting configurations and distributions of dots. And then because I was looking at those, I started reading about it, and I started making relationships between astronomical ideas of space and painterly ideas of space. And I found that the astronomical ideas gave me more license than the kind of formalist Greenbergian ideas about space did. The project that we're working on here at the museum, I started it a couple weeks ago at Pilchuck, where I wanted to see what I could do in a columnar shape. Ever since about 1974, on and off, I've been making these column paintings that are half-round lozenge shapes of different sizes. What I tried to do with those is create a paradox between the physicality of them coming out from the wall and the illusionness of them, both physically and visually. And I wanted to see if those ideas could translate to glass. And in a way, I'm trying to make them as close to a painting as you can.
Yeah, and you had a recipe kind of written out.
Yeah. I'm used to working on my own all the time, and it takes a lot more energy to get the momentum going on your own than it does when you have a crew and a group of people. And so one of the pleasures I take from working in a place like the museum here is the kind of communal energy that helps support the process of making work. You don't question it so much. You just go in, you get up, you have your coffee, and you start making work. And that's refreshing.
You see what I mean by them being figurative or beings of some kind? Like post-apocalyptic, but with really nice outfits.
Oh, I was studying painting. My painting prof said, well, okay, your schedule looks good here. You've got some 3D classes, but you're 2 credits short. And if you don't have a full load, they won't give you an assistantship. I said, well, that won't do. What should I take? And he ran his finger down the list, and he came to one that said 2 credits, and he said, here, take that. And I said, what is it? And he said, it doesn't matter. It's 2 credits. And it was the second glass blowing class in America. Experimental class.
This is a series of glasses that I've been doing for the last 5 years that we call cameo cut glass. So we came here a year and 3 months ago and blew cups, or blanks I call them, that have colors on the outside and clear on the inside. And then I took them to the engraving machine. I carved through each color down to the color that's below it.